Latitude59's mission has always kind of been connecting different ecosystems from all around the world. And why we do this is because we understand that in order to grow and scale, you need to have friends everywhere. We would really like to be the ones that are saying, okay, those are the values that we need in this world. We're really always looking that we have 50% of women. It's very important to have diversity among the speakers. Very important to talk about climate crisis, because without that, if we can't solve that, there is no point in anything else really.
Welcome to Sandile Hlangani podcast, live from Africa Tech Festival in Cape Town. Today, we are joined by the CEO of Latitude59, a premier startup and technology conference in the Baltic states. She is going to share her insights with us. So thank you so much, Lee, for making time to join us on our podcast. Maybe if you can start by explaining to us, what is the story behind Latitude's inception and obviously its growth to a leading startup conference?
I am the CEO of Latitude59, which is the flagship conference, startup and technology conference from Estonia, but it's also a global platform now uniting the startups and investors all around the world, innovators all around the world. And I have a team of 17 people, and we're mostly based in Estonia, but now doing events also in Kenya, in Nairobi, and just finished one event in Singapore, our first Asian satellite.
So that is so insightful. So the question that I want to ask is, what drives the mission for you guys to want to connect the startup ecosystem worldwide?
What drives me the most, I think, is the vibe of startup ecosystem, the need for always innovate, find new ways to make the world a better place. And I really want to focus at Latitude as well to impact and all the solutions that are creating a better world, because there are so many problems, and I think that technology is one of the forefronts that could really solve those. And I think startups can also teach bigger corporations and other types of organizations or entrepreneurship forms this fast-paced, it's okay to fail, try it again, let's test things out, things that we don't want to take risks too much in life. But I think what startup world is kind of teaching you is that do it, you can fail, then you pick yourself up again, and then you try again. And this is how the innovation is born, I think.
So how does then Estonia's digital landscape influence Latitude59?
Yes, so maybe a couple of words about Estonia. That Estonia is a country with only 1.3 million people. We have 11 unicorns. We have 1,600 startups, which means that it is a country with the highest number of unicorns per capita and highest number of startups per capita, because our country is so small. But it's pretty magnificent in terms of what the startup sector is creating in Estonia. And so where did it come from? Was that 20 years ago or so, that first companies were born, and we could see that, okay, this is possible. The first unicorns were born, and that created more and more companies. And that was not only possible, but very much of it came from this digital infrastructure, right? Everything is digital in Estonia. 99% of the government services are digital. The only thing you can't do digital is get divorced, but everything else is fine. Probably gonna fix that at one point as well, but we'll see. But yeah, so this definitely has helped to the startups to really scale their operations, because they can do everything really easily. They can file their taxes, they can start the business with 15 minutes, they can contact different startup support organizations really quickly. All the legal things are like super easy because everything is online. So, that makes it like way easier. You don't have to think about like all the noise, all the bureaucracy too much. You just do your developments and you I think that's very helpful.
So what prompted the decision to launch a satellite event in Singapore?
So, Latitude59's mission has always kind of been connecting different ecosystems from all around the world. And why we do this is because we understand that like in order to grow and scale, you need to have friends everywhere, kind of, like every different continent would be great. So this is why we did our first satellite in Kenya, in Nairobi last year. It was very successful. We had like 700, 800 people coming. And this year we're gonna host it for 2,000 people. And why Singapore came to the picture was also because we thought and like wanted to do something in Asia, because Asia is also very interesting. It's very big, but Singapore is like a similar country to Estonia. It's very small, but it's like a digital hub for innovation. So we decided to do like a smaller satellite in Singapore, and probably want to do like a bigger satellite in Asia soon as well. But in Africa, in Kenya, this is like the coolest thing I've done ever, really. Like this is like the most welcoming startup ecosystem, and I've been from all around the world to different startup ecosystems, and when I first landed like in Kenya, then I understood that this is like we need to show basically to Europe and like people from like the north and so on that this lies like a mega potential here, and please come and see, and that's why we are here.
So what kind of opportunities do you see arising from this connection?
The result would be that, in Singapore we have like a lot of global investors, so definitely inviting all those investors to Kenya, to Estonia. And in Kenya you can find very interesting companies who are looking for startups, and also startups are very cool. We are organizing a pitch competition here as well. In Estonia we have done it as long as Latitude has been happening, so 12 years. And last 2 years in Estonia, we have put out like a syndicate investment for 1 million euros, which is like a lot of money for what the conference is giving out. And it is a syndicate between angel investors and VC funds. And in Africa would be amazing, and like a goal to do the same thing eventually. But what we can show basically to African startups as well in Kenya, that like it's possible to get an award money from a conference, and we are actually flying the winner of Kenyan pitch competition to Estonia to compete for that million. So that's kind of like all those like connections that startups would get from a conference, right? Like the investors, the policymakers, the even universities like academy, students will be there, so you can like find talent, you can find business partners, you can find everybody who is like going to use your services, or you can just test your ideas, because you need to, in order to start something, you need to really just validate it first, like is it really necessary, or you're just doing it because you think it's a good idea, right? So I think that's what Latitude59 is kind of giving like this platform to, and you can have everybody in the room together, and like the main focus always is on networking, right? Like you have to be put yourself out there and then just like meet the people you really need to meet and make those meaningful connections. Of course, the program, like the workshop part and the part where we have like on the main stage everything that we talk about, is very important too, because we're focusing a lot on like the topics like sustainability, impact, fintech, like different things that are very important here. But that's more like an inspirational boost, right? More you're looking for connections and like things to work on. So I think connecting those like different startup ecosystems from all around the world is super crucial, because otherwise we won't understand like what's happening like in different cultures or different countries. And without that, you are not able to scale anywhere. You can just stay in your own country and that's it. But this is not a startup.
So can you talk to us about the trends that you foresee in the ballistic states?
I think more and more what we see and what we saw from the pitch competition, where we had like 400 applications right now in Kenya. There were like startups from 37 countries applying, which is insane. Like it's really great. But what we saw, the trends, is that there are lots of those like clean tech and sustainability, agri-tech companies coming up more and more. So in Africa, I think what is very different and interesting and important is that there are really massive like those like challenges in terms of like how technology could really solve those. And I think it's very cool that like African startups see that and they already come up with the solutions. Whatever they could basically do in terms of like, I saw like so many of them, so it's like really hard to bring some of them out. But there were a lot of those that were thinking ahead, like long-term vision. So it's like deep tech impact. Those things are very like, there are trends right now, and in Estonia as well, we are very much focusing on deep tech companies because we need to like put more science into the startups, so that there are like science-based decisions, and it will give us like a longer-term impact, really. So that's it.
So what role do you believe conferences like yours play in terms of making sure that they foster collaborations globally?
I think conferences play like a huge role, because we could be the platforms or people gathering places that are kind of directing the conversations. We would really like to be the ones that are saying, okay, those are the values that we need in this world. We're really always looking that we have like 50% of women. It's very important to have like diversity among the speakers. It's very important to talk about like climate crisis, because without that, like if we can't solve that, there is no point in anything else really, because there is no land anymore, or the world is like kind of. So like we can direct those conversations and say what is important, and we know what's important, like we all know it, but like we really try to back off from this conversation that what you can find from YouTube, that how to raise money, or those basic things that some startups really need, and that's why we are bringing incubators, accelerators, different startup support organizations also to the platform and to the conference. But I think if we talk about different forums of what we are going to talk about, then this is very different in every country. And I mean, not very different. Impact parts are the same, but for example, in Estonia, we talk a lot about defense tech and different I mean, AI is everywhere. So those are kind of the things that we need to all consider. We had last year, the topic was connection and responsibility. So everything around those two words were in our program. How to take responsibility for the technologies we are creating, how connection is more important than ever, and so on. And this year, for 2025 Latitude in Estonia, the words are perspective and integrity. So how to put things into more perspective, and how to bring different countries and governments and startups from all around the world, really create that unite front that we need, because there are so many things, if people would come together, that could be like solved already, you know?
So talk to us about your future expansions beyond Singapore and Estonia.
It's a really good question. I think right now Europe is going through like the investment winter. So there's like it's kind of shrinking a bit, like how much money is invested. I think some startups will die faster than like maybe before, like 3 years ago, because it's kind of like this cycle always. There's like a mega boost, and then there's like only those startups will survive who are actually really, really good and have figured things out. The same goes with funds, I think, because it's really hard to raise like another fund if you don't have like anything to show. So I think those are like the monetary complications, things like the capital flow. But in terms of like what's gonna like, you know, grow in like a startup ecosystem, well, of course, it's like the AI coming into all of the systems. Like we don't anymore talk about like AI startups so much as like the adopting this technology to your own like company, whatever it's doing, basically, like using like smarter systems. So need to be kind of aware of that, like where are the restrictions, complications, all that stuff. And that's why I think the cybersecurity part will become even more and more important, and the data, like privacy, everything like around that. So this is what the digitalization kind of does, right? Like it's there are dangers, but if you do it right, then it's really great. And Estonia is like a really good example of that. We have like a lot of cybersecurity, and I think every startup needs to really think about it when they want to be very serious in that field.
So how can our audiences get involved or stay updated on future events?
You can definitely get involved in everything we do in so many different levels, and it really depends what you do. If you're an investor, startup, so on, you can go to Latitude59 website, latitude59.ee, and there is an event coming up in 2 weeks in Kenya, 28th of November in Nairobi. That's probably the closest link right now to get familiar how we connect the ecosystems. We will bring a lot of international investors. We have a partnership with Smart Africa. We're going to bring policymakers from Africa, investors, startups, and a lot of very cool incubators, accelerators, community like organizations. So everybody's there, I hope, 2,000 people. And then we will have an event in the end of May, so 21st and 23rd of May in Estonia. And this is way bigger. It's like 4,000 people, and again, last year we had 65 countries represented. We are planning to invite a lot of people from African countries there and have like a bigger delegation. So make sure you check out like our Estonian event, because there we would definitely bring like all the like Nordics and like US and like Europe, Central Eastern Europe investors and startups on board. And there are lots of other ways actually. So we are, you know, like a great team of people. So you can always write to us and see how you want to get involved. Maybe as a speaker, maybe as a startup, like get the help. We don't only want to be like event though too, right? Like we want to connect the startups with like relevant people as well. So that's kind of the goal.
Thank you so much, Lizzie, for being part of our podcast. We really appreciate your time. We are live at the Africa Tech Festival in Cape Town. If you are indeed inspired by the stories that we're sharing with you, please don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. Otherwise, until next time, bye-bye.